Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I am excited for the conversation today because I have a good friend of mine on the show to join me. And he's not only a friend of mine, but he's also my neighbor. And there's a reason why I wanted to have him on today, and specifically because he's not a dad. He's not a biological dad, I should say. But he has a bonus daughter, what I call a bonus daughter, his stepdaughter, and he is just a phenomenal dad. I mean, he does everything with his stepdaughter, everything. And I'm going to let him share all that. But I am super honored to welcome my good friend and neighbor, Luis Chavez, to Dad Up. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, and I've talked to you about it in the past before about being on the show and all that, but there was a time, it was a few weeks back, and I was sitting in my living room, and my dog, Bentley, likes to look out the window. And so we keep the blinds open on the front so he can just kind of watch, whatever's going on outside. And he sits right there and watches. And I happen to glance over and I see Lewis riding his bike.
Yeah.
And I see Alyssa, his stepdaughter, running. And I thought, wow, now she's 16 years old.
Yeah.
She can handle herself. She can go out there and run in by herself if she wanted to. But Lewis taking the initiative as a father to be protective and want to be around his stepdaughter and make sure she's okay and make sure she doesn't get hurt and overheat and all that kind of stuff. Lewis took it upon himself to ride along on his bike. And I've seen this several times since then. This was a month, maybe a month and a half ago. And I've seen this several times. And it was that moment that I went, man, I need to reach out to him again to be on the show, because the stuff that he does and the sacrifices that he makes for not only Alyssa, but also his wife, Claudia, who are they're both phenomenal people. The three of you are just phenomenal people and neighbors. And we love you guys. Obviously, you guys know that, but you're an all-in dad, man. You really step up for Alyssa and for Claudia. And I have to commend you for that, because there's a lot of stepdads. There's a lot of biological dads that don't. And that's a role that you didn't have to take on. You didn't have to, but you did it, and you're doing it. And the relationship that you have with Alyssa is just awesome. So I want to start with that, because that's the reason why you're on this show, because of your commitment to Alyssa. It's commendable. So I honor you and appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that's to start. So what I'd like to do first is, for my viewers, listeners who don't know who you are, want to know a little bit more about you, let's start from your backstory, because I really don't know a whole lot about your backstory. But let's start, how you grew up, where you grew up, all that kind of stuff, and how you got into what you're doing now, and obviously transitioning into you being a stepdad.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Luis Chavez. Alyssa's stepdad, Claudia's husband, Brian's awesome neighbor. So backstory. So I grew up in Pico, Rivera. Pretty bad area, as I can say. A lot of gangs, a lot of bad things going on in that neighborhood. Luckily, I had the parents there that were very strong parents, very supportive parents, and everything we did. Me and my brother, have an older brother, 7 years older than me. They never let us get into a bad situation. Whether it was keeping us in sports, not letting us go out and play. We couldn't ride our bikes in our neighborhood. It was ride them inside our property, and if not, we'll take you out to the park. So it was always, my parents were always very, very involved with us when it came down to that. And I think it had a lot to do with the area we grew up in, because it was dangerous. We did see a lot of crime. We did see a lot of bad things going on. We had the neighborhood liquor store where all the bad stuff happened. But so I lived there very long time, 27 years, I want to say. I met Claudia through work, actually. I was a courier at the time. She worked in escrow. So, I would go into her office 2, 3 times a week, and say hi, and so be it. Um, Funny thing is that as time went on, we lost touch. I stopped doing that and jumped into a different line of work. Um, but we reached out to each other and became friends on Facebook. And then we started talking again, which was a pretty cool story. We started talking again, and it was funny because I didn't know she had a child at the time, right? Um, she asked the questions, how are you? How's your life doing? And I was like, cool, I'm working and single and just, playing softball on the weekends kind of deal. And then I asked her, what about you? What are your hobbies? What do you do? She's like, well, I have a daughter and this and that. And I didn't believe it. That's the funny thing. I didn't believe it. Till this day, I tell her, I was like, okay, a daughter, or like, and for some reason I thought in my head, like, she has a dog or something, a dog that she wants to carry around all the time. And that's the daughter. Until she showed me a picture and I was like, oh, wow, she does have a daughter, right? But at that time, it didn't stop me and it didn't scare me. There's people that do get, I want to say, scared at that situation. But it didn't. So we continued our conversations and ended up, going out and stuff like that. And that's where she introduced me to Alyssa after like a month or so of talking, and it just went from there. I mean, now we've been together 12 years. No, let's see,
You better
12
get
years.
this right, brother.
12 years, married 5, so it's been great. It's been great. There's no complaints here whatsoever.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Um, it's interesting when we walk into a role, and I've never been in this kind of situation, so you'll have to kind of enlighten me or tell maybe my audience who's never been in this type of situation. But when you're introduced to a child, how was Alyssa's reaction to you?
That was actually funny. So Claudia planned it. She said, okay, I want you to meet my daughter. Let's have a barbecue at my house. Come over and I'll introduce you to her, right? So I guess she had planned on having a cousin over or something like that. So Liza was excited that her cousin was gonna come play with her. So I knock on the door. She opens the door and it's her. It's Alyssa. She's looking at me like big eyed and like, oh my God, who's this?
How old was she?
She had just turned 4.
So she's
She had
4.
just,
Wow.
yeah. So then Claudia comes up and she hides behind her, but she's still peeking, you know, and she introduces me to her, and it was just like, okay, cool. And all of a sudden we were fine. She wasn't nervous. I was a little bit at the time, but she was so easy to get along with as a 4-year-old, and there was no issue. Like we were playing, we went to the backyard, we were throwing the ball around, and it was funny. Like the nerves just went away, And honestly, I think I was more nervous than she was. It's just because it's not easy,
Yeah,
get the you get the stories, you hear the stories, you get the typical movies, that say it's a bad situation. Kids are mean because they say, you're not my dad, you can't tell me to do this and that. But she's just a sweetheart, man. Ever since she was 4 years old, she doesn't change. She has a huge heart for the little girl.
that's cool. That's awesome. Thinking back to that time, what challenges, if you were thinking back to when you first met her, when you're getting to build that relationship with her, what challenges did you have when you were first introduced to Alyssa?
um to be honest with you, it wasn't her that the challenges were about. That was easy. Once I got to know her, it was just smooth sailing because I had younger cousins, so it was kind of easy to transition into, okay, I can picture it in that situation. They're like younger cousins, but it was the trying to do the right thing and get the approval, not by Claudia, but by my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, and my brother-in-law. Because, since her biological dad stepped out, they had to come in and kind of like protect, right?
Mhm.
Not an easy thing to do, not for a 4-year-old to not have her dad around after she was used to him for 3 years maybe.
Mhm.
So they jumped in and they stepped in the role as to protect her, which when I came in and I got in the mix, it was difficult because that's what I was concerned about. Like, am I doing right with them? Are they going to be okay with me? Are they going to be accepting of me? Is my way of talking to her, playing with her, communicating with her okay with them? Because they're protecting.
Mhm.
So luckily it was. Luckily, I think it had a lot to do with my family and being very, very tight knit and loving each other as much as they do. So I kind of just brought that into this, and it worked. I mean, I can tell now, like it took a minute, obviously, because I had to gain their trust. Because it's not easy, and if I were to put myself in that same situation, say with Alyssa, in the future, and she has married, has a kid, and for any reason the marriage doesn't work out, and here comes this other guy, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna be, me, very protective of her feelings and the granddaughter, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, luckily, I mean, they love me as what they tell me. I love them, and we get along so well now. Like my father-in-law is, really good man. Mother-in-law, I love her. Everybody has that. Oh, my mother-in-law. But honestly, I love my mother-in-law. She's one of the best human beings out there. Brother-in-law as well. He's a good man. Always there for Alyssa, even to now. Whenever she needs anything, they're there. They're all there for her, which is awesome.
Yeah. They seem like they had a good tight family. Just when I've seen them around, very nice people for sure. But it appears from my view, it appears that Claudia has a really good support system around her, which is awesome. Now you coming from, a hard, tough area to live in. You had a really good, appears that you have a really good upbringing. You had a really close family. What do you attribute from your upbringing that makes you a great dad?
I think that has a lot to do with like I mentioned earlier, my parents were always there. Um, they were hard workers. They always had me and my brother, like we had their attention no matter what. We played sports growing up, and they were always there. They wouldn't miss a practice. They wouldn't miss a game. Um, Anything we had going on in school, they were there. They'd get up five in the morning to go to work, be home by 2:30 just to make sure that they were home for our afternoon, whether it be at the park, playing baseball for practice. My dad would take us fishing a lot. Um, it was always something together. So it was always the family being so close, and I think that's why it's easy for me to bring that here, because
Mhm.
they're very similar. Like it's crazy that I say it's very similar because my mom and dad are very, very close to Claudia's mom and dad.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, like my mom and her mom are like best friends.
That's
It's
awesome.
they talk more than I want to say. I talk to my mom sometimes. It's crazy. She'll tell me, like Claudia's mom would tell me, "Oh, you know this had your mom mentioned this and this." I was like, I didn't know. Let me call her, see why she didn't tell me. It's pretty cool. But yeah, they were always there. Especially growing up where we grew up, it wasn't like, let's ride our bikes around the neighborhood. That wasn't at all an option. My dad was like, "You want to ride our bikes? Run in the back of the truck. Let's go to the park, away from where we were."
Mm.
Um, they'd grind. They'd be working hard all the time. We'd have one vacation every year, and it'd be camping. It'd be like Pismo Beach, or
Mhm.
it'd be, up to Wrightwood. It'd be somewhere we can go camping, somewhere we can go have fun as together as a family. And cousins, uncles, everything like that. It was always family, always family. Every weekend, it'd be a barbecue at somebody's house. It would be family, hardly
Right.
friends, hardly
Hmm.
friends. That's where, when it comes into this aspect, it's like I love just the family. Like,
Yeah.
even I don't go out with friends. Like, I'd rather tell Claudia and Alyssa, hey, let's go here. Like, you guys are my friends. You guys are my best friends. That's I don't need to go hang out with a group of guys to prove a point to anybody. You know,
Right.
they're my friends. Yeah.
That's cool. So clearly learned behavior from your own upbringing has really uh, given you this gift of being the husband and father that you are today. So that's so cool. And yeah, you guys do a lot together. And I know you're a hard worker. I know Claudia is, but you guys do a lot together. I mean, Alyssa's volleyball was her life, right? And you guys have spent
Or
many
not.
early mornings traveling to tournaments and traveling out of state to tournaments and
Road
just
trip for sure. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, here's the other thing about you. This is just something else that I give you credit for because let me just paint a picture for those of you that are watching this. Lewis and Claudia and Alyssa live next door. And I can leave my house in the morning to head off to the office. And Lewis is taking Alyssa to school. Now, keep in mind, she lives a mile from the damn school. She could walk to the school. She could literally cut through the park and be at the school in 10 minutes, 5 minutes. But Lewis gets up and drives her to school. I mean, I don't know biological parents that do that with their kids, but you doing it, getting up and dragging her off to school is, I just commend you, man. I just think it's so cool to see that and to see that relationship that you have with Alyssa. I just think is just awesome. How do you think that you created such that bond that you have with her? How do you think you created that?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because I felt like it just came naturally, whether it be her personality or mine. It was just it was easy. It was me being there for her, me motivating her, me, not giving. That's one thing I've always like told her. I was like, look, I'm not gonna give you everything you want. I'm gonna guide you in the right direction to earn it, because it's much more respected, and it feels so much better to earn it than to
Mm-hmm.
be right. So that bond that we've had, it's always been a grind, like whether it be school, whether it be volleyball, whether it be the simplest thing, it's her pushing herself because she wants to earn it, you know and it's, I don't know, something I've always instilled in her. It's like, hey, like, stuff ain't free. Like I've had to work, at a young age. I was full-time job in high school and still going to school. And, you know, the the grind isn't easy, but it's so worth it once you've accomplished your goal, you know? So I feel like we have that similar mindset in ways where she's worked so hard in her grades, straight A student, taking honors, taking
So
APs,
cool.
and with her volleyball. It started off as playing soccer for a season, and she despised it. She's like, I don't like soccer. But it's like, okay. I tried to get her into softball, and she didn't want anything to do with a bat and a ball, because my nephew, that we lived at the park with my nephew, playing
Right. I
baseball.
know who you're talking about.
I don't want to do that. So I'm like, all right, what can we do? And she saw volleyball. She's like, okay, so let's try this. Went one season in, she loved it. So it's like, all right, let's push. Let's get better. Let's work in the backyard. Let's do whatever we can to make you feel like you're earning where you belong. And I didn't realize how crazy that sport is. It our first tournament at that momentous sports center, where there's 22 courts, 4 teams per court, 14 girls per team. It was like, what did I step into? You know, but then you see opportunities for the better clubs, the better names. And then as you get older, it's college talk, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And that's where with her was like, I want to go into a college. I want to play volleyball in college. It's like, all right, well, I mean, can't give it to you. That's a life lesson that you're going to have to experience on your own. We can guide you in the right direction. We can, help you get there. And she took it and flew with it. And she works hard. She's with, Coach Chris
Mm-hmm.
last week. Aside from that, she's doing privates at her club. Um, we've traveled everywhere, as you can tell. I mean, we've gone to Atlanta,
Yeah.
Chicago, road tripped it all the way over there and back. We do Vegas often, tournaments, and some weekends, 6 a.m. we're on the court, and she's just worked so hard for where she started to where she has become. It's just it's impressive, and it's awesome that she does that. And I couldn't be more proud of her than her, man. I mean, like, I see it and I see her work ethic, and it's like she'll go in the garage and start working out. And that's when it comes down to, like, when you said you see me bike riding with her, right? So I'm coming home, I'm beat up, I'm tired, the sun's out, whatever, and she's like, hey, can we go for a run? How can I say no to giving her, you know, the guidance of working hard?
Right.
Yeah, let me get my bike, let's go. you
That's
know
cool. That's
so
awesome, man. That's cool. Yeah, it's a grind, and I know that just from my actually Blake played volleyball in high school, so I know those tournaments. But as you know, both my boys played basketball, so we were constantly on the road to basketball tournaments and stuff. And I mean, I'm sure you know this, but Chris, his daughter played college volleyball, so he's a perfect person for her to be working with because of where his daughter went and played. So that's awesome. It really is, and I can see it in her. She does. You can tell. You can tell. Just and I know Alyssa. You can tell from her that she is somebody that's going to go after her goals and dreams and work hard for them. And it's interesting that you said that when you work hard for something and you earn it, you have so much more respect for it than if somebody just gives it to you. And when you said that, it literally just reminded me, it clicked in my head that when I was younger, I was 12 years old and I bought my very first car at 12 for $50 from that I'd earned from paper route. I had a paper route business. I bought this 62 Chevy Nova. It was just a shell. And it was over the course of the next 4 years until I got my license. I worked on that car. It was my paper out money, whatever other job I had, I was putting money into the car to fix it up. So I'd have a car to drive. And the reason for that was because my dad told me very early on, we're not buying you a car.
Mhm.
You have to earn a car. You have to do it because if you earn it, you're going to appreciate it that much more than if I just go out and buy you a car. And you'll understand and take care of it better. You'll be that more appreciative of having it. And so when you talked about that brought me back to my 12, 13-year-old age when I was out there. My friends would be down the road at the park or whatever, riding their bikes, and I was in the garage wet sanding the side of the Nova so I could get it ready for paint. I mean, I spent my weekends and evenings doing that kind of stuff when my buddies were out goofing off. And guess who had a car at 16? Me. Guess who didn't have a car at 16? Them, because their parents weren't going to buy them a car. So I mean, that's cool. Alyssa's 16. So what's the plan with the license and all that stuff?
So she has her permit. We've been driving around the neighborhood.
Watch out for my cars, please.
Yeah, yeah. We pulled in the other day, and I was like, "Oh, careful with him." But
Blake's car.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we've been taking her around the block. She's been driving. I believe she goes in for her driving test the 26th of December, something like that. So after that, she'll be driving solo. I don't know. She says she wants a car. At the same time, she says I'm okay driving moms for a while. So
Hmm.
again, it's her thinking smarter, I guess you can say. It's like, why would she want a new car? She said, oh, I'll just drive mom's for a bit, and then when I go off to college, then maybe I can get something I want. It's like,
That's
and I'm
cool.
over here like, come on, let's get you a car.
Right.
Let's not
Yeah, let's
cheap,
get you a car. That's cool. Well, let me ask you this. When it comes to you being what I call, I don't like the word stepdaughter or stepfather or stepdad. I like bonus. I like that word better. When it comes to being a bonus dad, if there are other guys out there that may be in a similar situation where they have a bonus child or multiple bonus children that they're, now being the dad for, what advice could you give them if they're watching or viewing this on trying to really create that relationship with their bonus children?
Honestly, I would have to say, like, don't overthink it. Don't go into trying to build a relationship with those kids with that mentality that it might not work. you know Go in there being you. Everybody has their own personality. Kids they attract to that. Like with Alyssa, I went in, I didn't know anything about kids. It'd be different if I had a kid of my own and then I walked into one. She was 4 years old. I walked into that. I didn't have any responsibilities when it came down to family prior to her. But she changed my entire life. And I didn't overthink it. I wasn't worried. I said, you know what, this is a step of my life that's going to change, and it's going to benefit. I want to benefit from it, and it's going to make us all better. And I think that'd be my advice, that, don't overthink it. Just go into it, stress free, have fun. Kids are fun, especially if they're at a young age. Kids are fun. Put them in the sport and bond with them in the sport. Teach them, sit down, do homework with them. I used to sit down with Alyssa and do all her homework with her until she got into high school. And she was like, all right, I don't need your help anymore. And I really couldn't help her anymore because it's like, man, that math is insane. But
Right.
I sat there and did homework with her, and it's just build the bond. It's easy. They're
Yeah.
kids. They're kids, and there will be tough times where, again, they're kids, so they'll nag, they'll complain, but again, you're the adult, so take a step back and enjoy the good times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Claudia told me the other day, this is the one thing with Alyssa, it's like she loves Taylor Swift, right? And
Did you guys get tickets?
no. She wants some, and I mean, who knows? But I'm not a fan. But that songs are playing and playing. Alyssa's getting ready, and those songs are playing. I'm like, oh my god! So I looked over at Claudia, and I was just like, seriously? And she's like, these times aren't gonna, they're
Yeah.
not gonna be forever. So it's like, yeah, you got me there, right? So enjoy them as I can. So now I let Alyssa have the aux on the car, and it's Taylor Swift all she wants, because they're the memories, and again, like you said, she's 16. How much more of that do I have?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. She was 4 when you walked into her life, and she's 16 now. That 12 years has gone by like that. And I constantly, even some of the dads that I coach, I constantly tell dads out there, listen, I know there are those frustrating times. I know there are those tough times. I know there are those challenging times, but look at it as an opportunity to build that relationship and that bond and make it stronger. What you're doing right now, Lewis, is setting up. I understand you're trying to show her love and give her love to help guide her and lead her, right? But you're also setting up a lifelong relationship that you're going to have with Alyssa, even when she's long gone,
Yeah.
right? So the fact when she moves out and does her own thing, and who knows, she might live in another state, whatever the case may be. But what you're doing now is cementing that relationship for later on. When my boys were younger, I was, as you know, I was constantly in their lives. I was constantly doing stuff with them. I was coaching their stuff. I was doing everything with them. And then they hit that awkward teenage year, those years where they're just like, I'm still coaching, but I don't want to hang out with dad. I want to go hang out with friends. I want to be independent. I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
But now they're in their 20s and we're out golfing this morning together, the three of us, because they're two of my best friends. And that's, I'm a firm believer in, I have that relationship with them now because of what I built with them when they were growing up. And had I not been the intentional dad, had I not worked on building that bond, had I not worked on building the love and giving them support and guidance, had I not worked on all those things, that relationship wouldn't be as strong right now. I'm a firm believer in that. And so what you're doing, you and Alyssa, particularly, obviously Claudia is included in this too because she's her mother. But what you're doing specifically with Alyssa is cementing the bond and the relationship for later in life. And that's why it's so important. Claudia is absolutely right. It's not going to be like this forever. And the fact that 12 years has already gone by just goes to show you how fast it will go. So that time will come when Alyssa says, does she call you dad, by the way?
She does.
She does? Okay. Yeah. So when she walks out the door and says, bye, mom, bye, dad, love you guys. And she's off to college or she's off, living her own life. You're going to want that time back of her playing Swiftie songs.
Yep.
You know that?
I'm going to be playing them myself.
Do you see what I'm saying? So those moments right now, yeah, they're a pain in the butt to deal with. I get it. My boys drive me nuts sometimes. But what she's doing now and what happens later, you're going to want the now back. You're going to want it back. So it's just awesome. And that's great advice for dads that are out there. I mean, don't overcomplicate it. Be yourself. Allow that bond to naturally happen. It may take time. Yeah. Lewis, it sounds like, hearing your story, it kind of sounds like it was pretty natural for you and Alyssa when you guys first met, but that's not always the case. Kids have their own, they love their mom, they love their dad. And then this stranger comes in and I'm supposed to give him the same love. Some kids don't fly with that and it takes a little bit of time. So allow that time to happen naturally, but be yourself. And I think that's such great advice and so powerful. I want to ask you this, though. This is going to be a little bit of a challenging question. And I don't think this is one I've sent you, but it's just something that popped up for me when you were talking about, don't overcomplicate it. When it comes to the boundaries with Alyssa, as far as discipline and things like that, how do you guys handle it? And I think it's a good question because there may be dads out there that are bonus dads and they're not quite sure how to handle, disciplining, their bonus child. So how did that work for you guys? How did you guys manage that?
So with us, like I said, she's a good girl. So it's rare when there needs to be a serious talk about something, but when it's happened, it's always a stern talk. It's never a yell. It's never you're grounded. It's never any of that. It's always sit here, let's have a conversation. Okay, like, why did this happen? Why did you do that? Or what were you thinking at the time?
And are you involved in those conversations?
Of course, 100%. Yeah. And then there's an explanation. Like, if she doesn't have one, then be like, okay, well, this is why it's wrong. This is what you should have done. This is the right way of doing it. Next time, do it the right way, And I mean, it's worked, again, she's grown up to be an amazing girl, and there hasn't been situations where it's been bad with her, she's very structured. She's at her age, I don't know, at that age, I was a menace, honestly say. But I mean, this girl has her room clean, her clothes clean, her bathroom clean. Like, she's amazing. There's nothing to possibly be yelled at. But when it comes
do you guys want to trade?
Hey, your boys are awesome, man. There's times I'm gonna get my trash cans and they're already put in for me, and it's like, oh, they beat me to it. Yeah, your kids are good. But yeah, when it comes down to that, there was always a stern talk. It was always a discipline, and there's times where, for instance, I caught something that happened that was wrong, so I would have that conversation with Claudia before anything. I'd be like,
Got it.
hey, this happened, let's talk to her. And she'd be like, yeah, let's go talk to her. I do believe it's wrong, let's go talk to her. And then that would go on. I would never be the one to go straight at her, because then I'd feel like, okay, maybe she's gonna resent me for that, because
Right.
there's always that. There
So
was always that, you're not my dad.
right.
That
Yeah,
always
that
back.
was what was playing in my head, is like
Yeah,
that approach is like, well, you're not my dad.
yeah.
So
That would always circle, in the back of my head, to come from her, and it never has, it never has. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was always the conversation. I would talk to Claudia if I would catch it. If not, it was usually something small we'd see, and we'd be like, let's have the conversation.
that's good. So you're good about not just going and tackling the discipline yourself. You talk to Claudia and you guys handle it together as parents, and that's great. That's the best way to do it. That way you guys understand. You have the conversation first. You both are on the same page, so that way there's no back and forth
Exactly.
if you guys approach it separately. So that's awesome. What about I mean, we've talked about a lot here about the joys of what it's been for you being a dad. What's the best things about being a dad for you? Because you're not a biological dad, but the way that you stepped up and the way that you, like I said, the way that you've stepped up and continue to step up, you're a dad and you're a phenomenal dad. So what's some of the best things about being a dad?
It's them growing, the her growing to be the young lady she is. I mean, it's her work ethic, her all that. I feel like it's been something we've taught her, and she's grabbed it and gone with it. Seeing her succeed in so many different things, especially like now with say her volleyball. She's playing 2 ages over than what she's supposed to be.
That's
And
cool.
that's her work, her hard work. And it's just every time something like that happens, to where it's her grades or an awesome play on the court, it's like it's it's
It's a
nice.
proud dad moment.
Exactly. And it's everything. Like now driving, you know what I mean? She says, can we go for a drive? It's like, how am I gonna say no? Like, that's awesome. Like, that is a huge step in her life. I remember when I was excited to drive. It's another thing, another accomplishment in her life, and seeing all these things just go and go and go. And it's like, it's awesome. It's awesome.
That's cool. You've got that proud dad feeling, and that's
And,
cool.
and see, that's
And
one thing too. Like, I've never introduced her as my stepdaughter, ever. She's always been my daughter. And
that's
to be
awesome.
honest, there's a lot of people out there that will hear this and will be shocked. They'll be like,
Oh,
"What? You're not,
did we not do it right? We should be talking daughter the whole time.
you're
Uh,
not her real dad." It's like, you're not a biological dad. And it's like, a lot of people are gonna be shocked. It's like, no, I've never introduced her as my stepdaughter. I've never treated her any different. There's been people who say, "Oh, she looks kind of like you." It's like, in the back of my head, I'm laughing like, yeah, okay. She might have a couple of my personality traits, because I mean, she's
been
learned from
around
me.
you. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Your daughter for sure. I get it. I totally get it. Well, that's cool. Um, I think I kind of asked you this, but let's touch back on it again real quick. We've talked about a little bit about challenges and stuff that you've faced over the years with her. What challenges right now do you face as a dad? I think probably one off the top of my head that I can think of for you is teaching her how to drive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal, right? That's a scary thing for us as parents. That's a scary thing. So that's a challenge. And then obviously she's 16 and she's adorable.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I know where you're going with this one.
she's got she's got the boys that are bugging her. So
Yeah.
how about the challenges that you face with her, and how do you handle that? How do you get around that?
So the driving, it's been easy. It really has. She's, again, like, she attention to detail, so she's got that down. She's learning little by little, but she's got it. When it comes down to the boys, it's funny, because I tell her, look at how I treat your mom. Look how
Perfect.
look how I treat you. I'm giving you this example. You know, I expect nothing less than that from any boy you talk to. They have to respect you. They have to be there for you, thick and thin, like anything. Like that has to be it. I'm the example of it. And that's probably why she doesn't have a boyfriend, because she's 16 and boys are 15, 16, and they don't know any responsibility yet.
She has high expectations.
Yeah, she does, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud
That's
of it.
That's cool. That is a perfect answer, Lewis. You couldn't have, I mean, you don't even have to say anymore. The way that you treat her and Claudia is an example of how Alyssa should be treated by a boy. That is ideal in any parenting situation or any marriage. How I treat my wife, my boys see how I treat my wife. That's how you treat a woman. And the way that my wife treats me, that's how I should be treated from a woman. So that's exactly right. You want Alyssa to know what it's like and how to be treated by a male, by a boy, and how you treat her and how you treat Claudia is her example. And that's why her bar is going to be raised. Her bar is raised, and she has an expectation. And obviously, she's 16. She's not going to date boys or anything until she's like 35. But, anyways, but her expectations are high, and it's because of the relationship that you and Claudia have with each other. So that couldn't have been said any better, man. So that's awesome. Very, very cool. Let's do this for my listeners, viewers, want to look you up, learn a little bit more about you. Where's the best place for them to do that?
Probably my Instagram. I hardly post, but for the most part, it's all my family stuff there. So L Chavez 22. Other than that, man, I'm a simple guy. You guys want any advice? You can text me. You can DM me there. It's again, it's easy. It's easy. Just be yourself. Be yourself.
Yeah.
Go set the example that you want to be. Sometimes it's like you can think like, okay, maybe I didn't grow up right, or maybe I pushed myself too hard, or maybe I didn't make the right turns or took the right path, but with the child, it's like, okay, now you can guide them. You can kind of show them the right way, and it's part of you. Again, it's part of you. Like seeing them succeed like that, it's kind of like I'm succeeding again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I'm sure. I mean, your boys are amazing kids. Amazing kids.
Thank you. Thank you.
Their mind, their careers are. It's everything you tell me. It's like, holy moly, man! These kids are good kids. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part. No, they're good. I appreciate you saying that. I really do. And obviously I'll put your tag for Instagram in the show notes and all that. But listen, dude, I mean, we've known each other for a long time, and being neighbors for as long as we have. I truly mean it when I say you're a phenomenal dad, and the relationship that you have with Alyssa is incredible. And I say that, as an outsider looking in, knowing you guys and seeing you guys interact. I mean, obviously we're neighbors, so what you're doing and how you're doing it is awesome. And it's probably a credit to your parents and how they raised you and the family structure that you had, but also the fact that Claudia has such a big support system has been a great influence on you as well. So keep doing what you're doing, my friend. Keep it up, because you're setting, like I said, you're cementing this foundation, this bond with Alyssa that is going to go on years and years and years down the road. And it's remarkable. And I have to say that I'm honored to know you, honored to call you a friend, and proud of what you're doing and how you're doing it. It's just awesome. You and Claudia both are wonderful, wonderful people. I mean that, guys. They're my neighbors, but I have neighbors that Yeah.
You know,
I have neighbors like that. And then I have Claudia and Lewis that are like family. They're that great. So they're good people. And you guys are doing awesome. And I'm super proud of Alyssa and what she's accomplishing and stuff. So very, very cool. Lewis, I really appreciate you being on the show, brother. Looking forward to for everybody to hear this, but looking forward to continuing our friendship, our neighborhood friendship. And really appreciate you being on, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. This was awesome. Awesome experience, man. It was
That's
it was awesome.
very cool. Well, listen, guys, this has been another awesome episode of Dad Up. And as you just heard, my good friend and neighbor, Luis Chavez, talking about his daughter, his stepdaughter, what he calls his daughter, and their relationship and how they've really grown that relationship. And so for any stepdads that are out there that maybe going through challenges, maybe going through struggles, or maybe not really sure how to build that bond with their bonus child, you are more than welcome. You can reach out to me on DM. You can reach out to Lewis on DM and talk to him and get his perspective and get his advice. And he will answer you. Trust me, he'll answer you. So if you're struggling out there, or maybe you just don't know what direction you should go as a stepfather, whether you have a daughter or a son, you're a stepfather too, reach out to Lewis, ask him, talk to him, because he's doing it and he's done it and he continues to do it. And I'm witness to it because I've seen it with my own eyes. So I'm not just saying this because he's a good dude. I've seen it with my own eyes, how he is. So make sure you guys reach out to him. And listen, if you're not subscribed yet to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at daduppodcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.